Hey, did you ever get really confused on what you should be paying your employees to make sure they're profitable, to make sure they can pay for their seat within your organization, or what it's like to have to calculate what you compensate somebody when they are a customer service representative? We're going to talk today about how to calculate your team members' pay in order to be a profitable agency. Trying to figure out what compensation plan I should have for them. If I could just understand what the competitive kind of comp plans there were in the industry, what were people paying, so I could understand what I could offer. And I remember getting pages and pages and pages of a comp plan. It was so complicated. It was tier system. It was all of these things, and it was so complicated. And here's the deal. When I started agency, I barely understood how I got paid. There were so many different things that I realized if I made it this confusing for my team, if they didn't understand how they got paid, they couldn't understand how to maximize their income. And I didn't want that to happen. So I made my comp plan very, very simple for both me to not waste time calculating comp, but also for them to understand how they can maximize their income and then allow me to keep track so that I can make sure I was profitable. So today we're going to dive into exactly how I figured that out, what I've done, how do I calculate this on a regular basis, and how you can possibly use the same formula for yourself. So here are my tried and true type of rules and things that I go by, as well as showing you some examples of some equations and some ways that I figure this out. So how to calculate profit for payroll costs and set sales goals. First, you need to calculate each employee's cost. What is their monthly salary or hourly going to cost you? So if you know somebody's getting a certain amount of dollars per hour, you will times that by 2,080 if they are a full-time 40-hour work week employee. And then you'll figure out what their salary is for the year based on the hourly time. And then you can divide it by 12. You'll know what their monthly pay is. Or if it's a salary, you can then divide it by 12. That'll give you their monthly base pay figure. Then figure out what they make in commissions and bonuses based on what your compensation plan is and what your incentives are for those commissions and bonuses on sales. And then you're going to figure out what they are bringing into the business as far as revenue on average, or what their sales goal kind of is. And we will talk about retention effort and customer service efforts, as well as the obvious sales producer position. When you have these figures, you're then going to subtract the top number from the bottom number, which the top number, like I said, is going to be your hourly or salary pay divided by 12, figuring out the monthly, plus whatever commissions they would make on whatever their sales goals are, what you would want them to sell. And you're going to take that and subtract that from whatever revenue you would be making off that person on a monthly basis if they were hitting their goal. I know this might feel a little confusing, but I'm going to show you some examples and it's going to make it super simple. So a few things to remember is that you will make money on residuals, right? That's why we're in the insurance business. We want those residuals. That is the beauty of this industry. But you want to make sure that you're at least breaking even on that first month so that the residual, when it renews, is going to be 100% yours. So what do I mean by break even on that first month? I'm going to show you in just a second. You don't want to have a break even point on a team member that is going to be over a year, because if you have to wait over a year or tap into those renewal commissions into your business, you're going to have to kind of pay back whatever it cost you to bring that new business in. And we're going to show you what that looks like. Once you can get them to produce what you need for a break even point, then you'll be able to bonus them on possible renewals and residuals in the future, or their retention efforts, if that is something that you are interested in. So let's talk about an example real quick. Here's an example. Let's say you're paying a salesperson $30,000 a year. And I know that this is going to change depending on where you live or whatever the average income is for the industry where you're at, but we're just going to use these numbers for simple math. You can interchange this with your own figures that we were talking about before that I need you to get so that you can do these equations. But paying a salesperson $30,000 a year breaks down to $2,500 a month. That's going to be their base pay. Let's just say that you decide you want to pay them 3% of all new business that they are bringing into the agency. That would also be technically 30% split on the commissions or agency revenue. Then let's say they sell or have a sales goal of $30,000 in new business every month. We averaged or just made the math easy and said that the agency is going to make 10% commission at that point. You might make more, you might make a little bit less, but we're using this for easy math. Again, you can put in your own commission averages and do this equation. So if you get 10% on $30,000 in new business sales, the agency would make $3,000. At that point, the team member at the 3% is going to make $900. So if you take the $2,500 a month plus the $900 a month, you're going to have a $3,400 cost at that point for this team member on whatever it is that you're paying them for the work that they did and the results that they brought in and what they produced. However, a lot of times people don't calculate something called an operating cost for this team member. How I do that is I look at my overall operating expenses for my business and I divide it by how many people are working within the agency, and I figure out what that operating cost is for that seat within the business. This is things like the rent, the internet, the phone system, having an agent management system login, all the different things. Maybe it's the printer, right? Like all the different things that we have in our business that are going to cost us an operating cost. I divide that per person because if I didn't have that person in the business, I wouldn't need as much space. I may not need another AMS login. I may not need another email for them that I'm paying for or what have you. So I definitely take into account operating costs as well. So if we add that all up with this scenario here, this employee costs me $3,900 for the month. Now, let's talk about if they're profitable or not. If they brought in $3,000 in revenue because we took $30,000 and figured out that we're making 10% commission on that, which is $3,000 for that month, and we subtracted what this employee cost us, we would actually be negative $900 for that month. We would not have broken even for this person. Because of that, when you have the negative $900 and we didn't break even, when there is a renewal, you're basically going to be taking $900 from the renewal and kind of paying yourself back for the money you invested for this new business. So you're still not even breaking even on the first renewal period. So you would have to wait for that renewal period to kind of pay back this debt, most likely a year or possibly 6 months, depending on if you have a 6-month policy or an annual policy. Let's take a look at some more scenarios. Here's an example of somebody sold $50,000 in new business. They cost $2,500 in base pay. At 3%, they would be making $1,500, which means they would cost $4,000 for that month. And then we would add in that $500 operating cost, so it'd be $4,500 in total. At this point, they would have brought you in at 10% commission on $50,000 in new business, $5,000 in revenue. Now, if you take $4,500 minus $5,000, you are already profiting $500 in that first month on this business. Now, you might be asking me, Cassidy, what if it's a service person? Like, how do we figure out how to calculate that? Well, let's take a look. Let's say you have a customer service representative or a service team member. Their base salary, we're just going to keep it simple, $2,500 a month in salary. Plus, we are going to reduce the operating costs for this person because maybe we're not buying leads for them and maybe we don't need certain things for them specifically in the same cost. So you might want to figure that out. But this person is costing $2,800 a month in base pay. Well, if they service at least $1.5 million in a book of business, which is kind of the industry average from what I've found out from clients and peers and just being in this industry for 10 years, usually the rule of thumb is to have one customer service team member per $1.5 to $2 million of business in your book. I don't follow that, but that's up to you. It's kind of the rule of thumb. So we're just going to use that for this equation and for just calculation purposes. So let's say they service $1.5 million. And if you are making that 10%, you're going to make $150,000 in revenue into your business. If you look at that for the year, divided by 12 months, you're looking at making $12,500 a month in revenue from this portion of your book of business that this person is servicing. So if you really think about it, they're making sure that you are keeping that business and they're working that business, which helps you retain your business and grow and scale. So $12,500 a month in business is staying in your business partly because of this person that is making sure these people are being taken care of. So you can take the $12,500 and minus out whatever this person is costing you, and you can figure out your profit. But obviously, you're not going to bonus on $9,700 of profit. However, the way I look at it is if you're really tracking your retention data accurately and it's up to date, you can incentivize them on increasing that percentage with a bonus. So, for example, let's say that with a $1.5 million book that is retaining 89% of business, you will end up having $1,335,000 in book of business premium at the end of the year. And that's going to change the figures above here in this example as far as how much profit you're going to make. So if they increase that retention percentage to 93%, which is a 4% change, you're actually going to end up, instead of 1.335 at the end of the year, you're going to end up with 1.395, which is a $60,000 difference, and it's going to generate another $6,000 in revenue for your agency. Now, $6,000 in the grand scheme of things for the year does not seem like a lot of money, but if they can save you $6,000 a year and continue to save you more as your agency grows year after year, that compounds to quite a bit of money. However, you can bonus them and use that $6,000 in additional revenue to be able to pay back your employees for all their efforts and all their hard work. It allows you to have some extra income to give back to your team so that they're making more money and that they're happier spending their time and spending their efforts in growing within the agency. So let's say we give them 40% of what they grew. So 40% of 6,000 is going to be about $3,600 for the year. You can do two things. You can bonus them that on an annual basis and just give it to them in a lump sum as an annual bonus, or you can take that amount and divide it by 12 and add some monthly additional revenue to their paycheck and increase their paycheck on a monthly basis, depending on if you want them to have monthly stability in that income, or you want to be able to give them kind of this nice large check that might feel a little bit more rewarding, but they do have to wait a year for that. So here's the math on this. At $3,100 in the cost for what this person's costing you for the month. But if you think about it, on a monthly basis, you now will be making a lot more, and you'll make more annually. So you'll divide that by 12 to figure out the profit and figure out how much you would reduce from that profit. And they're still making you a ton of money. So this is a great way to incentivize your service team. This is something that we've done. And also to figure out what you should be paying your team until you get to a break-even point. If you are paying them more commission as a percentage, or maybe a different pay, maybe it's higher, maybe it's lower, it's hourly and whatnot, and we did talk about how to calculate that, just change up these figures and see what is the amount of money they need to sell per month in order to get you to a break-even point. That's what their sales goal should be. Now, is your team going to sell $50,000 in new business premium right away? Probably not. But if you are working with them and holding them accountable and helping them grow, they should be getting to that point. And once they get to that point, they should not go below that point again. Some of us have bad months, it happens. However, it should be consistently on average over that breaking point. That's how you figure out what their sales goals should be and how to make sure that you calculate their payroll costs and their commission costs to make sure that your agency is profitable. Now, a couple of things I just wanted to add in. We definitely have a few rules that we go by. We make sure that our team members, as soon as they are hired, they have 90 days to hit a $30,000 month, which means in their third month, they need to hit $30,000 in new business premium sales. That is a goal that we have. We want to ensure that we're not wasting anyone's time, they're not wasting our time, and they're not sitting on payroll and not at least getting very close to a break-even point. The other thing is we must see progress until they hit that $50,000 mark, and then they stay consistent. So like I said, if they're not maybe consistent, you can look at the end of your numbers and see that they're averaging that 50,000, whatever those goals look like for you. We also only spend money on marketing so that they can build their brand. We also help them build that pipeline for the first year, and then they're on their own with their own referrals. So from day one, we let them know we're going to be investing in you for this amount of time. After that, you're on your own to bring in your own referrals. If we have call-ins and things like that, as we brand our agency, they get rotated through the agency. However, For that first year, we're helping them build their brand. We're teaching them how to ask for referrals. We're teaching them everything they need to know, and they should be prepared by the end of the year to be on their own. We also only hire another CSR, customer service representative, when the following two things happen. One, current customer service representatives are at 120% capacity, meaning they are doing 120% over their energy capacity, their time capacity, everything that they can do to make sure that they're giving excellent customer service to our clients. So once they hit 120% capacity, that's when we look into hiring another CSR. The reason why is because if they're at 100, we don't want to hire somebody else just to get both of them to be at 50% or both of them to be at 70%. We want to make sure that there's enough work for them to do at that point, but also to number two, we make sure that before we do that, if someone says, hey, I'm at 120% capacity, like this is too much work, I'm behind, all the things, we definitely make sure that we exhaust all productivity, automation, and deletion that we possibly can in processes, tasks, and activities that are keeping this person from being able to get their work done or making them get to 120% capacity. So first, we will filter them through some productivity hacks, seeing if we can help them out with time management, things like that. How can we automate some of the things they have to do? And is there anything we can actually delete or get rid of so that we can bring them back down to 100% capacity before we say, okay, you're totally at 120%. There's nothing more that we can do. We are going to hire help. All customer service representatives in our agency start off as receptionists. We want people that come from out of the industry, start at the bottom, show us and prove to us that they are willing to work through every single piece of what our agency means, what it does, all the things, and they grow with our agency. At that point too, within a couple months, you'll see if that person's meant to be in a customer service role or if they're meant to move on and possibly do some sales. I've also had some people come out of that position who are really, really great with marketing and some that are just really good with basic administrative tasks. So it just kind of depends, but how awesome is it that they can start as a receptionist, grow with our company, see really amazing potential. And for us, it just has always worked really, really well. So they begin with the basics and we have them grow and develop on a plan based on the results and the zones of geniuses that they show us. So again, I hope this was helpful. I hope this helped you think about how to calculate the profit for your payroll costs and setting sales goals that are going to allow you to continue to scale your agency and find time and money freedom.